Hi, and today I'm going to talk about anger, love, and the ego, and how the ego likes to keep anger going, and how that stops us from being able to truly move on and love ourselves and others, and how to let go of anger. So, anger is a very powerful emotion. I think everyone has probably felt it at some point, if not multiple times in their lives. And it's very pervasive and a powerful emotion that can completely consume people. And you have the extreme of physical violence, but also emotional as well. And the problem with anger is that it doesn't ever really solve anything, in the sense of either two things can happen when we get angry. And that can either be we react. So someone, say for example, you're in a work meeting and you had this great idea and someone claims it for themselves and they get loads of praise and blah, blah, blah. But you feel anger, you feel angry that someone has done that to you. And then what happens is the ego, which I've talked about in a previous video, likes to create a narrative around the emotion of anger. So you'll start getting all these thoughts in your head probably of, why did they do this to me? I can't believe they took my idea. I never liked them. I don't trust them. I never did. Why did they do that? It's not fair. Why did this have to happen to me? Oh, I really want to get back at them. This isn't fair that they've done that. They deserve to pay. All these sort of ideas around anger and what can you do, and you feel helpless because anger occurs when there is a lack of control. You are usually angry because something has happened that is beyond your control. Either you've acted out of anger when you're in pain and then feel angry at yourself for what you've done, or you're angry at someone else because something has happened that is beyond your control. You have not been able to control it. And maybe that's why anger is such a strong emotion, because we can't do anything about what has happened. But the problem is with anger is then two things happen when we get this emotion. Either we react out of anger and sort of expect the person or thing that this has happened. When we react to it out of anger, often that just then causes pain for the other person or suffering to occur. And deep down, we probably don't feel very satisfied because it's hurting someone else or, the event. So that just causes more suffering. Or we don't express it and we repress the emotion and we deny that it's there. Or we turn inwards and are angry at ourselves and again sort of repress this, often sometimes for months or years. And so it feeds away and makes us unable to have self-love when we repress anger. And that is another very, very important thing to remember about anger, is that it is very much the opposite of love. So if you're angry at yourself or someone else, it's very, very difficult to love yourself or love someone else, because the anger is there and the emotion, and the ego likes to keep the anger going because it has this narrative that you can create around it in a lot easier way than other emotions because it's a powerful one. And so then you sort of wonder, well, what can I do? What can I do? This has happened. I'm angry. And that's okay. That's the first step, is to recognize you're angry. That's so important, is to realize if something happens or you've done something or someone has done something to you, is recognizing you're angry. Recognize that the emotion is there rather than trying to deny it and turn it into a story. Recognizing that emotion and sitting with it. And it feels strange and it's really sort of weird because not many of us ever do it without the thoughts of this isn't fair, what's happened, this is wrong, this isn't my fault, or it's their fault, or it is my fault. All these sort of judgmental phrases. If you try and just sit with the anger, the emotion, and a really good way of doing this is noticing where you feel it. So maybe you feel it in your throat or your stomach or, in your chest or your head even. Sitting with the emotion and noticing where you feel it is a really good way of just recognizing that it's there and not denying it. And that's the first step to trying to let go of anger, because if we don't recognize it's there, we sort of carry on, deny it's there, but the emotion is still within us. It's still sort of festering. It's there and eating away at us. And so this whole thing of mindfulness of, watching our thoughts is one step, but watching our emotions is just as important, because it allows us to recognize them. And once we can do that, we can let them go. So letting go of anger. Well, there's a really good saying that I really like, and that is anger is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. And it's this idea that when you're holding on to anger, you're only hurting yourself, because that emotion is just eats away at you in a certain way, and then if you react with anger, you're often then just going to cause more suffering, and then you'll feel even worse, and then you'll feel angry at yourself, and then this sort of cycle develops, which can be quite hard to sort of break. So these first steps of recognizing that you're feeling angry, if you are, when an occasion occurs, recognizing that anger happens when you don't have control of something, and that's okay. The biggest thing then of recognizing that emotion is accepting it, accepting that you feel angry, accepting that that emotion is there. And then you sort of have to do some sort of inward looking at why you want to hold on to that anger. If you can't, often what happens, if we just sit with an emotion, it will pass. Emotions pass, they don't hang around. When they hang around, it's because we're attaching a narrative to it. But the actual emotion, what you feel, wherever you feel it in your body, if you sit there and observe it and feel it, it will pass. And then when it has passed, you are able to either, act on the situation. If that person stole your idea, just because you accept that anger and let it pass doesn't mean that you're condoning what they did. You may then want to respond and say, that was my idea. There's things you can do, but responding rather than reacting allows for you to come from a place of calm when approaching situations that might be difficult. And also then letting go of the anger, if you're angry towards yourself, allows you to love yourself, because anger is the opposite of love, and it's very, very difficult to love yourself and others if you're angry at yourself or other people. And so once you've recognized this emotion, realizing if you're holding on to it for some reason, if there's a reason that you're holding on to this anger, and often it's because we've attached these narratives to it, that this thing happened to me, or I did this thing and no, it wasn't fair, and I wish it could be different, and all these other things. And realizing that it's in the past and we can't do anything about the past, we can only do something in the present, and recognizing that, looking at why you may hold on to anger, what is the reason you're holding on to it. Another good example of is holding a hot coal in your hand and wanting to throw it at the other person, but it's just burning your hand. You're the one that's getting the pain. The other person may not even care or realize, and so you're the one that is experiencing this pain and suffering. And that is the thing with anger, there's always pain behind it. And so we need to recognize that when we're angry, recognize that there's some pain there, feel that emotion, feel where it is, let it pass. And if it's not passing, looking deep sort of inside at, why am I holding on to this? Why is it still here? And trying to not attach a narrative to it, just looking and feeling why. And whatever reasons you seem to come up with, just let them go. Try and imagine letting them go and just focusing on that feeling of what it feels like. And hopefully it should pass, because if you don't express and recognize that there's anger there, then it will just fester and stop us from being able to love ourselves and others fully. And once that emotion passes, once we've recognized that and can feel it, then we can start to look at love and forgiveness. And I'm going to do a video very soon on forgiveness and the power of it to free ourselves from pain and suffering. And being able to do that is really freeing. And the first steps to getting there and loving ourselves and being able to love and heal and forgive is recognizing that we have that pain in the first place. So I hope that's been useful and sort of a little explanation of anger. Like I said, I'm going to plan to do another video soon on forgiveness, and this will tie back to anger again and the ego. So I hope you guys have enjoyed, and please like and subscribe and put in the comments below anything else you'd like to see really soon, and I'll see you guys all really soon.